Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Catholic Reads. It's been a while since we've done a live YouTube stream, and to celebrate the occasion, we have brought back Declan Finn. He's got a brand new book series out, and it's only a little brand new because he's already on book 4, which is impressive because I just finished reviewing book 1 like a couple weeks ago. So, Declan, we're just going to jump into it because if the audience remembers, you are already familiar to us thanks to your Love at First Bite series featuring my favorite vampire hunter, I would have to say, of all time. and the best good guy, or I should say good girl vampire that there is in literature, because usually they just water down what it is to be a vampire, and you didn't do any of that. So
thank you.
But what we're dealing with here, at least so far as I know, is not vampires. We're dealing with a New York City police detective who also is actually a good Catholic. In fact, an exceptional Catholic. So how about you lay it out for us? Who is Saint Tommy, and why should we love him?
Well, Saint Tommy is a concept I came up with in a college course on Christian spirituality and mysticism, where they were going through the charisms of supernatural gifts from God.
Mm-hmm.
And gee, this saint could smell evil. This saint could levitate at the Eucharist. This saint could bilocate. And after a while, I was thinking, okay, so when do we get the superhero comic book?
Right.
And since nobody else was going to write it, I had to.
Of course.
And we wound up with Saint Tommy, NYPD. And while, yes, anyone who wants to nitpick, I know all saints are dead. Let's just say it comes up in the books once or twice.
It came up in book 1, so.
But and why you should love him? Because he is a good Catholic, a traditionalist Catholic, and he's not portrayed as a spineless wimp.
Yes.
Which, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw a good religious person who had a spine in literature, media, etc.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a cliche at this point that if somebody is deeply religious, they're going to be highly non-confrontational at the very least. And they may have deep principles and not compromise them personally, but there's very little engaging. Everyone, they all wind up being portrayed as holy cards come to life, and that's about it. And anyone who's familiar with the actual lives of the saints knows that that's far from always the case. I mean, Padre Pio comes to mind.
Padre Pio comes to mind. Mother Teresa, for all of the media spin around her, also was no shrinking violet.
Right.
And we won't even go into the amount of martyrs we had last century.
Oh, goodness. That's no small number.
Yeah. And if I'm trying to remember, since there were so many Catholic nuncios under fire in World War II, at least one of the nuncios was taking mortar fire. So, and I want to say that one became John the 23rd.
Oh, goodness.
So I might be mistaken. Like I said, part of the problem with doing church history in World War II is you have Martini, Montini,
right,
Roncalli, Pacelli. It's like, can I buy a consonant, please?
Well, for that you have to go to Poland.
This is true. Don't worry, that's book 5.
Ah, excellent. But yeah, so it's good to see in literature someone who is got all of the good masculine virtues, all of the good Catholic virtues rolled up into one package, and is actually doing something with that makes sense. You know, he's a cop. It's logical. You know, and as you were laying out these common gifts of saints, it occurred to me, like the smelling evil in particular. What came to mind instantly was actually the movie Unbreakable, which
Okay, point taken.
it isn't exactly smelling evil, but you know that whole he like touches somebody and he can like sort of, lack of a better phrase, he can see their sins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh yeah, it's a similar sort of thing. Although I think we can say that I can't even remember what's his name in the movie. What's the character in the movie? I
The
forget.
character I don't know. I just remember Bruce Willis.
Yeah, well, Bruce Willis's character certainly isn't a saint by any means. Not even close, as we saw as they established early on in the train scene.
Oops. Yes. Well, let's just say that Tommy Nolan is not unbreakable.
No,
We Sorry, spoilers for like book 4, but the things I put that guy through.
well, you know, if he's gonna be a saint, he's got to go through some stuff, man. Especially if he's a saint who attracts the attention of demons and supernatural conspiracies.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough ride. But no, I have usually specialized in heroes that are a little warped
Mm-hmm.
and who are having a little bit too much fun. If you might remember Marco from the Vampires.
I do.
And this is the first time I was designing a straight out and out good person, where he insists he doesn't have a he insists he has a dark side. Everyone else is saying, "Oh, shut up, will you?"
Right, right.
And it's been especially fun since, gee, these powers are common with saints. You must be that good a person. And his first response is always, "No,
No, I'm not.
why?"
Well, you know,
Oh,
and that's genuinely a mark of a saint too, to be like, no, I'm not all that awesome. I mean, I've got this problem, that problem. You know.
well, to steal something from Robert Barron,
Mm.
who I believe footnoted Fulton Sheen, I could be mistaken, is that a saint is, well, when you're looking at a window and the sun is at your back, the window can look remarkably clean.
Hmm.
You look at the sun through the window, you see all spots and you see how dirty it is. And
Hmm.
a saint is just somebody who is more hyper aware of their sins than
Yeah,
other folks.
yeah,
Most most saints will are on record as saying, "I am the worst sinner I know."
right. Oh yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
yes, and when it's Saint Francis, who, well, was probably virtuous unto detriment to his health.
I think that's a common thread for saints as well.
Yeah. So Tommy feels like he's nothing special. It's like, gee, I volunteer at the church functions. It's a great way to get to talk to people in the community
Hmm.
because he lives in his precinct. And gee, it's a great way to do my job, establish ties with the community, and I've got the free time. What's the big deal? Oh, look,
Well,
we put somebody up,
yeah,
we put somebody up in the house. We've got the room.
yeah, exactly. He just sees himself as doing stuff that he should be doing.
Yeah.
Plain, you know, not like he doesn't see himself as going out of his way to do good things. He sees himself as just doing good things because they're there to be done. And
Exactly.
that's one of the great things about that I instantly liked about the character. I also appreciated that at some point I mean, there's no false humility with him either. You know, it starts out with I'm a saint. No, really. And so clearly at some point he comes to accept this is just a reality. It's not a thing that he's making a big deal of. He's just like he comes to accept, like, apparently I am, based on this stuff over here. And that was, like I said, that's something that I appreciated early on. At first I was kind of like, wait a minute. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. It makes sense. He's not running away from it. At some point he's just like, yeah, apparently this is the thing. Why? I don't know, but it's a thing.
Yes, and since my wife is actually slightly more familiar, since she has read Butler's cover to cover, she's currently on the Golden Legend. She informed me after like book 2 or 3 came out. Well, usually before saints start manifesting stuff like this, they wind up with a visitation from Jesus, Mary, another saint. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out a way to put this in retroactive continuity for like book 5 or 6.
Oh, well, hey, that'll be fun. Retconning is always interesting.
Yes.
So, and I noticed one. I also liked the references that you, at least in book 1, that you threw out to your other works, the Pious Man series, and of course, Love at First Bite with the Vatican Ninjas throwaway joke.
Shh! Don't tell my publisher. No, it was when I first started. The entire series got off the ground because Russell Newquist, the editor in chief of Silver Empire, came to me and said, "We'd like a new urban fantasy series." I said, "Okay, fine." Well, I've got Graduate School for Wizards. I've got 12-year-old Merlin.
Okay.
And I've got, well, St. Tommy. And I gave him some lines from the book, including the part where, and I'll tell you right now, I'll tell your audience right now, you've read the book, and it's on the flap copy at the back, where the first villain I had was, well, if this is a cop who is a saint, then we need to put him up against a serial killer possessed by a demon.
Seems reasonable.
Exactly. So, and he said, yes, I want that. Go for it. And I used to be, back in high school, I was interested in serial killers. Then I found out that like half of them just had mommy issues. But I used everything I knew about demons. I used everything I knew about serial killers, and I used what I could put together about certain medical procedures.
Yep.
And threw them together in the most horrific goulash I could come up with. At which point I had to write to Russell and tell him, sorry, boss, I may have just accidentally created a horror novel.
Yeah. Considering the description of the first victim that we find, that jumped into a horror novel. Pretty quick.
Well, a lot of people were not scared by the description of the murder victim. A lot of people jumped out of their skin when he went home that evening.
Oh gosh.
Yes.
The haunting, yes. Took me a second to get there, but yes. We were clearly in horror territory very early on.
Yeah, and that was just research. It's like, well, I'm going up against a demon, so yeah, horror isn't totally unreasonable.
No, not at all. It kind of seems the most logical explanation. Now, I'm sort of curious. Now, one, do you have any sort of like long-term plan for this? Do you have an idea of how many books this is going to be, or?
Right now, it's going to be 6 books,
Okay.
and it's going to have to at least pause at book 6
Mm-hmm.
because, honestly, I couldn't figure out how to go bigger from there since I keep building the threats. And technically, I might have gone a little bit too big, a little bit too soon, but
Okay.
it's where the natural progression wound up leading me.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, book 6 is going to have to be at least a pause,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll see where I go from there. I've already put some work in on it. Uh, book 6 is called Deus Vault, and book 5 is called Crusader. So it gives you an idea where we're going.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, book 6, at least a pause. I've got a space opera series after that, which
Oh,
is
nice.
our hero was raised in an Irish Catholic monastery, and basically runs Space Templars.
Awesome.
And
Okay, yeah, I'm
after,
totally sold on that anyway. Space Templars, boom, I'm there.
and after the space opera is done, I'm actually thinking of revisiting the vampire universe.
Awesome. I was hoping you would do that eventually.
Oh, after the first 4 or 5 emails, it's like, okay, I should probably start making plans.
Well, you clearly left it open for further stories down the line anyway. And there's I even have my own theories of where it might go.
Well, you can send me your emails and I'll be happy to steal your ideas.
No problem. No, there's in fact, I remember after the last time we talked, you said you had a short story that takes place in the same universe. I got that book and I read the story, the one about the true nature of a certain former Secretary of Defense. Highly enjoyable. I like the way you play it off of his nickname there. that was highly entertaining.
Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, I'll bet that was fun to just sit there and like, what can we do with that? And yeah, it worked out very well. But anyway, so St. Tommy's, and again, you hinted right away in book 1, okay, there's more going on here than just one demon possessing one serial killer. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes that, of course, I'm sure Detective Nolan gets himself wrapped up in, and obviously we don't want to get too much into that. But I'm assuming we're looking at things at least on the scale of what we saw in the Love at First Bite series.
Well, the first 3 books are relatively small
Mm-hmm.
compared to that. Although by the time we go to books 4, 5, and 6, we ramp up to that level of
Okay.
threat. And as in reference to vampires, vampires do make a cameo appearance in book 3, and then they realize, gee, Saint's blood isn't good for vampires. We're going to leave now.
Oh, interesting. Okay, now I see. Now you've really got me curious. Because now I'm wondering, because I was kind of initially thinking is like it'd be interesting if there was crossover potential, but then I got thinking about just how big things got in Love at First Bite. I'm like, well, there's no way that escapes anyone in the city's notice. But the I would say the military helicopters dumping drums of holy water would catch attention.
Hey, on a Friday night, that just looks like a good time.
That's true. I don't know. Maybe that is a fairly fairly common occurrence over in New York. I don't know. I've never really been there. But I was there, I actually was in New York once for about 2 minutes. I was going to I was going to martial arts thing in New Jersey. And my instructor and I, we missed a turn and went right over the George Washington Bridge. And it was amazing how much different things were on that side of the bridge. And New York had its own unique odor to it.
That it does.
And I was like, this is awful. We're going to turn around immediately and get back to Jersey, of all places, as the better place.
Well, given the neighborhoods around the George Washington Bridge, I'm surprised it didn't stink on both ends.
Fair enough. Like I said, so I've never really been there. Someday, I'm sure I'll get over there, but not yet.
Hopefully, we will not have burned ourselves down to the ground by then.
Hopefully. So I am curious now. Are there potentially Vatican ninjas in St. Tommy's universe?
Let's just say that Tommy's handler, one of Tommy's contacts in the priesthood, hears about his Vatican ninjas jokes, and then gets very shifty. So I only hint at them. Like I said, Russell doesn't. So
I'm sorry, you broke up there for a second.
Russell originally wanted a new IP,
Mm-hmm.
so that he wanted a new universe with no crossover. So I am putting in just enough that if fans of my other work want to construct one universe, they can.
I see. So the potential is theoretically there, but it's theoretical at the moment.
Pretty much.
Fair enough. Kind of like how, but then again, that's kind of how Stephen King started off when he started to connect everything to his Dark Tower series.
Yeah, well, I hope to have slightly more success and less pretension than Stephen King ever did.
Oh, I really, really hope so, because I don't know if we discussed this last time, but I was starting to get thoroughly annoyed with the Dark Tower series about book 5. And I was just kind of like, I don't think I like the way this is going to wrap up. I just started to get a feeling that this is not going to end well. In fact, I had that feeling so strongly, I never read book 6 and 7. And from what I heard about the way it wraps up, yep, I made the right choice.
You definitely did. And if I ever wind up concluding a series like King did with Dark Tower, if somebody shoots me, I'm not going to object.
You're gonna be like, I had it coming.
Pretty much.
So how does that story end? Well, basically, we go back to the beginning.
Yep. And the last line of the last book is the first line of the first book.
Yep.
Because he's on an endless Buddhist time loop or something like that. It was so pretentious and painful.
I know. It's just stupid. I hate time loops anyway. Just with a deep and abiding passion. I hate time loops because to me it's always such a cop-out.
It really is.
And they never make any sense. Like at some point, I don't care who you are, unless literally God standing outside time and space is stepping in and rearranging things. None of this could possibly work out this way, because within time, we are linear. We do go through it linearly, and at some point, there had to be the first world where none of this happened. Like my personal favorite example actually is the Terminator movies. And the one story that they've never done, that they never will do, that I really want to see, what's the original timeline? What is the original timeline in which Sarah Connor never met future soldier Kyle Reese and still had John Connor and still raised him to be the total bamf that took down Skynet? What is that storyline? That's the one I want to see. But we'll never see that.
Probably not.
No, we will never ever see that story as much as I want to see it. But there you go. Story idea.
Oh Lord. Sorry. Every time I see time travel, it's okay. You better be Doctor Who, and I better not take you that seriously.
That's exactly it. That's the only way Doctor Who can get away with what it gets away with. It's just like, you know what? They said wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and everything's fine. There are officially no. Just so long as you go into it knowing there are no rules at all, you'll be fine.
Yes, except for the arbitrary and capricious one made up in each episode.
Right. Which will likely be broken in a later episode.
Absolutely.
That's a fixed point in history. I can't change it unless I really want to.
Fair enough.
But yes, we wander far afield. Just a little. That's okay. And another thing I really appreciated about this book, and also of course the Love at First Bite series, is the fact that all the Catholic spirituality is taken very seriously. It's not just a pious exercise. It actually has effects. Like the way they actually get the demon to back off of them. They pray a rosary.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, why shouldn't this work?
Pretty much.
And then other things too, of course. He has much like the vampires, he has extreme aversion to any sort of blessed object. And it's like, yes, this all makes it like, yeah, why wouldn't it work that way in fact real life? That's why I think in my review I referred to it as kind of in the trenches Catholicism, like where you actually are engaging in legit warfare of both the spiritual and physical variety. It's again, it's refreshing, much like the whole St. Tommy character.
Yes, well, I figure the only thing that's going to work against the supernatural entity is supernatural weapons,
which makes perfect sense, and it's not some weird esoteric relic you had to dig up out of a graveyard and dip in lamb's blood, your typical thing for the Supernatural series.
Yeah, let's not go into that one. They kind of lost me around the time. Wait, how many times did they raise Satan? Or no, wait, it's Satan, Lucifer, and Beelzebub are like 3 different people. I kind of lost track of.
No, I think you're thinking of Constantine there.
Oh, okay. But after a while, I just lost the plot, and I think so did they.
They did. In all honesty, it wound up becoming more of a dark comedy sort of thing, as opposed to like an action horror, which is definitely what it started out as. But alas,
in which case that's probably why Jim Butcher likes it. Dark comedy.
Yeah, and they focus a lot more on the humor as opposed to actually hunting down and killing the supernatural creatures, which still happens a lot, but it's always done with a darkly comedic overtone. Unless they're going into soap opera relationship stuff, which is not a fan of that. No. And again, like you said too, Tommy was refreshing in a way that even Marco, as refreshing as he was, Tommy was even more refreshing because he's a family man. He's a family man with a regular job. To any outward appearance, he's a regular guy. Who doesn't have a particularly warped desire to literally stomp things into the dirt.
Yeah, and again, it was the nature of the character. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to have a saint with a sadistic streak, and I don't know. I originally had a concept of him as a uniformed officer,
Hmm.
and I don't know why. It was Russell who actually referred to him as a detective for whatever reason,
Hmm.
and immediately that drastically changed the image of the character I had in my head, as well as his familial relationships. It's like suddenly he has a wife and kid. I don't know where they came from, but okay, fine.
Huh. That's interesting. No, and I think it works too. So I think it works better than having him be like a beat cop would.
Hmm.
It's just in so many ways. One, he's got more directly to fight for and protect. Being a detective means he's going to get into a lot more things. He's got a lot more freedom of movement than your average beat cop. I think that was a fantastic change, actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Well,
I'd like to. I think now that you mention, I'd like to see a beat cop story, but it would be a very different story.
yes, Saint Tommy, the earlier years, before he actually winds up having superpowers that he obviously notices.
Yeah, yeah, no, we're not gonna. No, don't go George Lucas on me.
Oh, heck no, heck no. Right now, the closest I'm coming to any short story that isn't Saint Tommy Detective is a short story I'm currently working on for a fellow author of mine named Amy Gibbons.
Okay.
She's doing a urban fantasy collection called Supernatural Streets,
Hmm.
and it focuses on his partner.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
That'd be
it's, the
interesting.
first line. Yes, then the first line is, you know, my partner's name is Detective Thomas Nolan. He is a saint. He is the Swiss Army knife of sainthood. My name is Detective Alex Packard, and I am nowhere near a saint.
Well, at least the man's honest.
That he is.
Oh, and might I say, I think book one features the first ever use of bilocation to deliver a clothesline in any medium whatsoever. I was like,
Yes.
that's cool. And then of course, the later on multiple location, which I won't, I
Yeah,
won't,
well,
I won't talk about that too much because I don't want to give it away. But I was like, oh, again, why not? Is there any record of that sort of thing happening anywhere? Like the
there
multiple.
is a record of multiple locations
Mhm.
with Padre Pio, but then again,
Really?
he had so many bloody superpowers. He really should have put on a cape.
It was
Um,
probably true.
yeah. Well, when looking at Padre Pio stories, it's yes. Well, he wound up scaring off pilots who were going to do a bombing run over his town by basically appearing kind of like a massive hologram right in front of the bomber pilots who went, "What the?" and got the heck out of there.
I'll
Um,
be leaving now.
yes. Well, he also kind of disturbed them when the same guys walked into town with the rest of the liberation forces, and he said, "Ah, you were the guys who were going to blow us up." It's like, oh, darn.
It's like, this is awkward now. Yeah, I
Just a
think I
little.
recognize your face. Oh. Yeah, I think if I was one of those guys, I would find somewhere else to go. I'll be honest.
Ditto.
Yeah, that or I'd be like, baby, Maybe we can do confession. How's that?
Also a good idea. But no, there a lot of what wound up happening within the novel,
Mhm.
such as, well, with Padre Pio, his quote, documents were put out of order, which
Mm,
might translate it into a more digital format,
right. Yep.
as, well, we won't even go into some of the more ghostly appearances.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah. I've read a little bit about Pio and the stuff that he went through. And it's like, wow. I'm sure there's more that I haven't read because I haven't, gone super in depth. But yeah, I mean, he had full on visitations of a less than pleasant variety, to
oh
say
yeah,
the
and
least.
yeah, and actually, after book one,
Mm.
I started reading Father Gabriel Amorth,
Ah,
who
The
was
Exorcist. Yes.
the exorcist, and he was chronicling, oh yeah, sure, there are notes of saints who have been physically assaulted by demons. It's like,
Mhm.
make note, make note.
Yep. Yep, we'll be using that later on. Yeah, so well guys, what else do we have to look forward to? You mentioned you have a space opera series coming up.
Space opera series, it's, well, book one and two are basically, let's do Lord of the Rings in space, and
Mm-hmm.
the follow-up books are picking up the pieces from the rest of that, since,
Hmm.
let's face it, you just look at the appendix to Lord of the Rings. There was a lot more he could have done. It's like, well,
Yes.
and what, his son did 20, 40 volumes just from his notes?
Yeah, it's been just there seems to be no end of depths to no end of the depths to plumb there.
Well, good news. His son is actually done. He finally finished with it last year at age 96. I was half afraid of,
Wow.
he has finally finished everything at age 96. He is now going to take a long rest. Dead the next day. No, he didn't actually drop dead the next day, but it was a worry of mine.
I got a feeling his life's work is done now. So yeah, honestly, and at 96 anyway. I mean, let's face it, you're every day's a blessing at that point.
This is true. This is true. But
Acutely so.
but no, with the space opera stuff, it was, well, it is what I want to do, and then we're just going. First, we're going to start with Space Lord of the Rings, and then we're going to get crazy.
And then we're gonna get crazy. Okay.
Pretty
And
much,
you
I've
mentioned
got.
Space Templars, so this should be fun.
Oh yes, well, I've also got. Not to make it Mel Brooks joke, but I do have Space Israelis.
Yes, we never did get that.
Yeah, and we. I wound up with alien space jihadis, but it's complicated.
Well, why not? I mean, after all, we had alien space jihadis in Dune. They just called them Fremen.
Yeah, the problem is they were supposed to be the good guys.
There is that. There's complicated relationships there.
No kidding. Although, uh, when I'm feeling charitable, I just think of them as Bedouin, who are largely either Christian or Christian friendly.
In a lot of ways, I think that's probably a fair characterization.
Hmm.
Ish.
But yeah,
In all honesty, I never actually read the later Dune books. I,
yeah. Don't
I
don't worry. I don't think you're not missing anything. It's
that's
like book
kind
one,
of
two, and three.
yeah. I've got a few of them. I've of course read Dune, and I read the House series, which which was entertaining. House Harkonnen, House Trace, House Carino, and that was sufficiently entertaining. It wasn't great, by any means, but I was entertained. Um, but yeah, I never got into anything else. And part of it is like I've listened to podcasts and stuff about them, and it's just like, it looks like it just gets weird. And
and and how many times can you kill off Duncan Idaho? Answer: as many times as we can clone him.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And it's really too bad because Duncan Idaho in and of himself is a cool character. But what are you gonna do? I mean, who doesn't like who doesn't like the tough guy charismatic swordsman character? Everybody likes a charismatic swordsman character.
Hey, it worked for Errol Flynn, and he had a whole lot of his own personal problems.
This is very true. This is very true. So we got a space opera. When might we see book one of Templars in space?
Hopefully, let's say July or August.
Nice.
We still need what, this is April, May, June is going to be the end of Saint, at least the pause
The
in
pause
Saint
of St.
Thomas,
Tommy. Mm-hmm.
and it books. The books of the space opera are going to depend on how fast they can edit it. Now, I have a really efficient editor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she is actually the wife of John C. Wright. El,
Oh, yes.
El yes, El Jaji Lamplighter.
I've always wondered how to pronounce that.
Well, trust me, it took me a while to figure out how to pronounce Jaji as, it's Jagi.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, Jaggy? Yagi? Yagi? Jaji. Never would have guessed that.
Don't worry, I didn't either. I had to be told multiple times,
You had
and
to ask. Yeah.
oh, not only that, I wound up giving John C. Wright's acceptance speech for his first Dragon Award,
Oh,
and he
awesome.
sang, yes, he sang Jaji. I had to fake it, and I faked it wrong.
Oh, that's good. That's good. At least you managed to fake it well.
But so yeah, that was fun.
Very cool. Very cool. So it depends on how quickly the inestimable Mrs. Wright can get it edited, and yeah, that'll be cool. So sometime in the summer, most likely, and then hopefully, I'm gonna really be looking forward to your turn to the vampire universe because
Well,
I really want to see what's next for them.
well, chapter one of the next book for them will be them getting married.
Wow, I mean that was obviously gonna happen.
Yes, I just had to fast forward to the wedding because the entire series is going the this part of the series is just going to be called Honeymoon from Hell.
Why not? Because of course it will be.
Yes, we're
Personally, I'm
going to
looking.
just
Personally, I'm looking forward to when they have kids and what happens there, because I'm willing to bet things happen.
oh boy, are they ever.
That's actually one of my theories. Uh, I suspect Dolph has nefarious plans for exactly that. For exactly that.
Well, that'll depend on which way Dolph jumps because for the people who have not read my series, he is one of the darker brothers of my supporting cast,
Mhm.
and he has such a labyrinthine mind. I'm not sure which way he's going to jump next.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, and the brothers actually, I'm curious to see more about them as well, because I mean, the references based on their names are of course obvious to anyone who's read anything in in these sorts of genres before. Yet their nature in your books is unclear thus far.
Good. I'm trying to keep them as vague as possible before, everyone starts throwing fireballs or something. But no, I actually have a book that if I ever get around to writing thrillers again,
Mhm.
they all appeared in a book called Dances with Werewolves.
Oh goodness.
And it was all three brothers, and they were supporting characters, and well, let's just say it went very live and let die.
Okay. Well, that'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap it up here, Declan, where can people find you and your work?
On Twitter, I can be found under at Declan Finn Books. Facebook, just plain old Declan Finn. I've got an author page. I've got a personal page. I'll accept likes and friend requests. I've also got a group on Facebook called Finn's Firebrands, because why not?
Because
I've,
why
oh,
not?
I, my blog is declanfinn.com, and I have a mailing list that you can basically access by logging by you don't even have to log into the blog. You just have to go to declanfinn.com, and one of the first things that will pop up is an invitation to my newsletter, mailing list, what have you.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And hold on. I have Facebook, I have Twitter. Um I am also on MeWe, which is trying to replace Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And since I have been banned from Facebook for the last 2 days, I'm starting to think MeWe is a really good idea. Um, I said something derogatory about Australians because they were picking on a priest for being traditional and orthodox, and so I said something derogatory about Australians, and Facebook said this violates community standards. How? It just does. Well, screw you. Uh,
Well, that sounds typical.
yeah. And I am also on Gab, which
Mm-hmm.
is trying to replace Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I am just plain old Declan Finn there. I don't think anyone else got to it before I did.
Well, that's good. Well, all right.
Yeah.
And of course, your publisher is Silver Empire,
hmm
and all of your stuff is available on Amazon, correct?
Everything is available through Amazon. I think if you hunt down, you can probably find it through Barnes and Noble as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Amazon is where all the reviews are, so you can probably form a better opinion there.
There you go. And but well, based on my own reading, I've read the whole Love at First Bite series, which I think I've been clear. Love the heck out of that series. So much fun. And I've only read the first book of St. Tommy thus far, but if that's any indication of the way things are going to go, I'm sure I will also be a big fan of that whole series. And like I said, you had me at Space Templar.
Excellent.
So with that, Declan, thanks again for coming by and talking about St. Tommy and whatever else came up along the way. And thanks everybody for tuning in to the latest episode of Catholic Reads. And hopefully we'll be doing this a little bit more often going forward. But until then, keep reading, keep praying, and we'll see you next time.